A true espresso made simple. This isn't from me, but it's what you will find written on the website dedicated to the Baristina. And the Baristina is that little coffee machine here that we are going to review in detail together. Hi, I'm Colin and you're watching Cafelista. I bought this machine new at the normal price, so this is not a sponsored video or an e-commerce presentation. But I try to do a comprehensive test. My goal here is to determine if this is truly an espresso machine and if we can make a good coffee with it. The machine cost $400, 500 for Canadians. As you know, prices fluctuate often, so I will put a link below so you can check the current price. The Baristina's operation is incredibly simple. In fact, I think it's impossible to make it simpler. Why? Well, there are only 3 buttons. One for espresso, one for lungo, and one for extra dose. No power button. You pour the coffee beans into the reservoir on top. It holds 170 grams of coffee. You add water to the water tank and voila. Then you select your coffee and a few seconds later you have your espresso in your cup. It is even simpler than a bean-to-cup machine and behaves the same as of a pod or a capsule machine. Why am I mentioning this now? Because I think it's important to understand the machine positioning so not to have unrealistic expectation and end up disappointed. To me, the Baristina is the next generation and the replacement for capsules and pod machines, and I see it as Philips coup de grâce to the machines like Nespresso, Tassimo or the K-Cup. Let's take a closer look now at the Baristina, focusing on its build quality and design. And there are pros and cons here. Firstly, the design, which I found appealing. The lines are clean, the machine is compact, it's small, it is very lightweight. For comparison here, I will put it next to the Philips 5400. As you can see, it's quite small, it's minimalist, and I think, it's a nice looking machine to have in the kitchen. That being said, now for the negative. The machine is entirely made of plastic. This is expected given the price and its market position, but it does feel somehow lightweight and a bit fragile. The portafilter handle feels very light as well, and the same goes for the plastic on the sides of the machine. The base is also quite light, so you often need to hold the machine with one hand or it might move. It's not all negative though, there is a neat feature I will show you now. Position the portafilter to the right to receive the ground coffee, and then it will move by itself under the coffee spout. It's a nice touch and my kids loved it. They wanted to make me coffee every morning. Good to know also the machine is made with a 50% of recycled plastic, which is good. However, I would have preferred a slightly more solid finish. Let's talk about sound now. It's never pleasant to wake up the whole house when making coffee in the morning. Using a grinder will always make noise, and the Baristina is no exception, but with a slightly lower volume. The grinder reaches 70 to 72 decibels for a few seconds while grinding. The sound isn't shrill or very high-pitched like other grinder. Then the pump starts and it goes down to 60 decibels. This is within the standard range for a super automatic machine, and it's even a bit quieter than some. Now, let's look at the heating time and coffee temperature. The heating time is very quick, almost instantaneous. As I mentioned, there are no on and off buttons. The machine heats the water to the right temperature in a few seconds. From the moment you press the button to the last drop in the cup, the machine takes 40 seconds to grind and brew the coffee. And it's hard to get faster. It is actually as fast as a pod machine. For comparison, a bean-to-cup machine, which is already very fast, takes twice as long, usually between 80 to 90 seconds from startup and coffee preparation. And the question now is whether the coffee is hot enough. The answer is yes, I measured everything. The coffee comes out at almost 185 degrees or 85 Celsius. This is often a problem with this type of machine or the super automatic coffee machine, but here it's perfect from the first coffee. in terms of the machine temperature, it heats very little. As you can see with a thermal camera, even after making 20 coffees in a row, the machine's body remains at room temperature. The portafilter and the shower head will heat up a little bit more and reach just over 122 degrees. Now let's go to the heart of the Baristina and see if it makes a good coffee. We will talk espresso, lungo, extraction quality. We will see this in detail, and I've taken several measurements of the espresso extraction and quality. I've measured the doses, so you don't have to. In a single espresso mode, you will get between 10 and 10.6 grams. Those can fluctuate slightly depending on the coffee. With the option extra, the button in the middle, it's close to 12 grams. Knowing these measurements is important to adjust the coffee and the volume in your cup. The machine comes with a factory setting of 1.3 ounce or 40 milliliter for espresso and 3.7 ounce or 110 milliliter for the lungo. This is normal and you can adjust those settings. As I mentioned, there is no way to adjust the grinder. We are here with a pressurized system with no grind adjustment possibility, and it will have consequences on our espresso. But let's try now a single espresso. The extraction time is between 15 to 16 seconds. It's fast but expected for this kind of machine. And we still get some crema. Well, it's not really crema, it's more like a foam, but it's not bad. In terms of taste, the coffee is a bit light. The issue here is not so much the dose, 10 or 12 grams usually are okay, but the grind, which is too coarse. As I said, it's expected and it's gonna make our cup a little bit too watery. As you can see on the paper, I have the Baristina grind on the left and on the right an espresso grind. I'm not sure if it's very clear for you, but there is a noticeable difference. This results in an espresso that doesn't have much body, not necessarily a bad espresso if you have good coffee and if you use the machine well, but not really an espresso either. Or it's more like an espresso from the bean-to-cup machines. Regarding extraction quality, I use the refractometer to measure the coffee extraction. It gives us a measure, TDS, which means total dissolved solids. Don't worry, I won't go into too much detail. But just so you know, a classic espresso will be between 8 and 12. An espresso from a bean-to-cup machine usually between 7 and 8. Here the single espresso is between 5, 5.5 or a little bit more. So as I said, a bit light. We can see it in the graph. You can get a more concentrated coffee with a higher TDS, for example, by reducing the volume in the cup. But then we have another problem. Under extracted coffee. It's not easy to find the right balance. I've tried playing with those, and we quickly go from an over extracted coffee, which will be bitter, to an under extracted coffee, which will be too acidic. And you might think, why not double the dose in the portafilter? Well, I tried that. The problem is that the coffee isn't tamped under the grinder, and when it moves to the left, all the excess falls. So it's not a great idea. The Lungo option will follow the same characteristics as espresso. The longer the coffee, the more water passes through the espresso puck and the more uncertain and usually mediocre the result. For this type of coffee, I prefer to stick with a smaller dose. Otherwise, an Americano, that means putting hot water, it's usually a great option. A nice option is the ability to use ground coffee, so we can make decaffeinated coffee. To do this, fill the portafilter with 10 grams of coffee, then we are going to press the middle button for 5 seconds. And it works quite well. Another downside of the machine is that you can't really get hot water on demand. For that, you need to put the portafilter in the machine, and if you want to make an Americano, for example, it's not great because there are often coffee residues here in the portafilter that falls in the coffee. Let's talk now maintenance and cleaning. The portafilter can be cleaned under water in a few seconds. The small drip tray here is the same, and that's it for daily cleaning. Descaling will be really important. The machine will signal when to start the program, which will take around 30 minutes. That's all there is to maintenance. However, it's hard to evaluate how the machine will perform after a few months of use. So, why buy the Baristina? Who is this machine for? It will be an interesting choice if you want to switch from a pod or a capsule machine, and if you're looking for the same speed and ease of use. If you don't want to bother with settings, this is an effective choice. However, if you're looking for a machine to make you a true espresso, this might not be my first choice. In fact, there are many alternatives. Bean-to-cup machine, small espresso machine, other hybrid with integrated grinders. Would you be interested in a video on that topic? And if you liked this video, I recommend watching this one here. I'm sure you will like it. As usual, have a great day. I'll see you soon. Ciao.